think. Oh, no, wait. Now we're going. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today we're going to be talking about Westworld Season 3, Episode 2, The White Line. And joining me today are two lovely people who do Westworld content seemingly all the time. And we got a very special guest joining us today. It is Hax Dogma from the channel Hax Dogma. How you doing today? Hax? No problem. And Johnny, introduce yourself. I know you're there somewhere. So, yes, very much so. And as I try to pull up the chat, I will ask you the first question that I have. So, Maeve wakes up in a new park dubbed Warworld. Throughout her story arc in this episode, she comes to realize it's a simulation, leaving the park to only think that Warworld is a simulation rather than a real park. Do you think that Warworld is actually a real park, and just the version that we saw of Maeve is that it is, in a sense, a plan by Insight to get Maeve out of the park? If di- oh. This is on. This is my mic is on too. It's like the bar is not moving though, just for some reason. For desktop audio. Oh, here we go. Is that better? I just changed it to the speak. I don't know what's going on. I didn't hear anything. They only hear me. Okay. Oh Jesus. Let's I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It says it's OBS, but it's like the sound background. Oh, it could be me. No, let's see. It says the input capture is on. It's just the desktop audio. The thing's not. It says it's working, but the bar is not going back and forth, which is its problem. So. Because it's on. It was on speaker. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again. I'm sorry, this is like. Oh, there we go.
Totally not ironic.
Oh, hey.
Now I got it. Okay, now I got it. Now it's working. Good.
Everyone just weigh in the chat, let us know.
Yeah,
I have my wife watching as well. She'll ping me.
It's not ironic to have tech problems
Yeah.
while covering Westworld.
Yeah,
Not at all.
the hosts
The
are
bar is
fighting
now
back
working.
already.
the bar is not working, so we're good. So
Maeve's in there messing with shit.
yeah, that's
she at?
okay. So let me just pull that up. But anyway, if you since we got the craziness, now that they can hear you, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yep. Hey everybody, Hacks Dogma here. I run the Hacks Dogma YouTube channel and cover Westworld and any other show that really piques my interest, or movie, or really any topic that I care to talk about.
Then John.
Whatever tickles Hack's fancy, I'm just
Just wing it.
No, I'm happy to be here. It's fun. We get to talk about the simulation tonight. As I was saying earlier, and I was rudely cut off by the host gods, my thoughts and concepts for this season have kind of completely been blown open. So we're going to talk a lot of simulation, and you may not like it. We may be looking for slow motion scenes everywhere.
Yeah. Slow motion is all the time, but I mean, they were pretty good. They were pretty well done for being slow motion scene.
Oh yeah, I loved it, and it was honestly like just such a. I mean, it makes sense. Like the simulation, the technology is moving so fast that something inside of that, if it was conscious, observing the real world, would view the real world as just such a slower place than than it's used to. Which is an interesting concept in and of itself, but yeah, just like them including that just seems like 100% it has to be for a reason, right?
Yeah, we'll get into it, but yeah, because it shows the difference between, what was it, season 2, when 4 just snapped his fingers, and then the wind was still blowing in like in the hair of the characters and stuff like that, but this was just a complete nothing was going on. So like, anyway, Johnny, what do you have to say about that?
I don't know. I just think most everything is a simulation now, except for the first Charlotte Hill scene we saw. I think that was Dolores and Charlotte Hill. Still, possibly. It's just my theory for now. Everything we see with Caleb and Dolores, that's possibly years in the future being, trying to be predicted by Rehoboam. As we know that Sirach's tried to do in the past. This is just my tenfold theory for now. But, and Bernard and Stubbs are in the real world as well. But we're seeing Maeve now. I think she's still in a simulation. We saw divergence patterns, or the Rehoboam pattern right as she was waking up. It was on the coffee table. I don't think that's a coincidence. And Sirach talking about this is his world. The way we don't get to see this guy, the way he's so covered up, you can't really put a face to him except when we see him during this, what I think is a simulation, makes sense to someone that would upload their consciousness into Rehoboam. And even, Liam Dempsey Jr. said something about it thinking for itself. I think there are some hints there that he may be the all-seeing eye. The man in white instead of the man in black.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just riffing here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible. So, let's start the question again. So, Maeve wakes up again in a new park dubbed as Warworld. Throughout her story arc in this episode, she comes to realize that she's in a simulation, leaving the audience to also think that Warworld is just made as a simulation rather than a real park. Do you think that it is possible that Warworld is a real park? Just that the version we see was Maeve, in some sense, made by a plan by Insight to get her out of the park. If Delos is slowly losing their, trademark on their technology, now that sort of Maeve has been absorbed by Insight, more specifically, Sarek.
Yeah. Johnny, you want to go first?
Is Warworld... I can't say Warworld.
Warworld,
Starts sounding like Sucker Souffle and like Larry King or something. Sucker Souffle. I don't know if y'all have seen Larry King try to say Mark Wahlberg, but if you haven't, go look it up right now so you can get back to me in the chat. Okay. I think Warworld is a real place. I think a lot of that was constructed, just like Maeve's name was constructed, Isabella. I feel like somehow they got Lee on a life machine and are in his thoughts, or at least trying to peel something away, or his insight material, whatever he used on social media, is being used to reconstruct who he is. And it's imperfect at best, right? But we know that Isabella is completely connected with Lee, and Lee said that that's ingrained in Hector's fucking code, and we see it right there. We see all those cores too. See, I'm getting off on a tangent. I think Warworld is real, but we do see all those cores, and one of them happens to be Maeve. Are these cores of other hosts? Are these cores of humans? I have a lot of questions to who those cores are, because I'm assuming there's a pearl in every one of those.
Yeah,
that has to be significant.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. 100% Warworld has to be real. Maeve has the whole line about they built a simulation of a simulation, or use the same code with the simulation, and I don't know. The Delos Destinations website also updated to show Warworld as one of the official parks. So it's canon for me now. I think it'd be super interesting to like consider, if it wasn't, and who is exactly programming this, and who has such intimate knowledge of the parks and storylines and stuff that could recreate or could create a genuine own park. But I definitely think it's real.
Still goes back to Lee writing all the narratives for all the worlds.
Oh yeah,
man, I think when they said they didn't get him in the heart, and this was kind of emotional when we get Lee back, or we think we got Lee back.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh no, he's a host. But dude, I could see some crazy sci-fi scenario where he's hooked up to tubes somewhere, and they're trying to extract information out of him, and that's that even adds to the emotional toll that Maeve would be starting to go through. But
entirely.
Hell. But people want to know where that information that was in Abernathy's core, the key, they want that. They want that information. And Maeve wants her daughter.
Yeah. Do you think that, not to get too far off track here, do you think that, or why do you think that they want this data so bad? With that is the Valley Beyond, we know was like tied into this forged data, and the forged data, of course, was just the bookmarking of everyone who's been there, and like the profile that the system has created, trying to build a competent mind that can pass a physical fidelity test once put on a host mind, or a host body. Do you guys think it's immortality that they're going for, or what are your thoughts?
What about this? Rehoboam is a strategy of a predictor that goes through all scenarios. How else could you do a fidelity test faster than that? It's beyond time. So it actually make the time frame shorter for immortality. Holy shit, I think we're coming up with something here. But it would make the time frame shorter for immortality if you could put that information into Rehoboam.
Yeah. And
it's simple, but it's also blows my mind.
And even with our own sort of technology, if you look into the conspiracy theories, like the 23andMe's, the Ancestry DNA stuff, it's like having your genetic code from whenever you take it, and then there's like the conspiracy theories out there that eventually it'll be a thing of like, oh, if you want to look 20 years younger, we have the DNA where you look 20 years younger. So it's almost that thing of almost where it could be like on your deathbed, you can sign this paper and your consciousness from the time when you were young gets transported into a young body of yourself, which is like how they were trying to do the Delos project, like kind of, but for the highfalutin people who can actually attend the parks.
Yeah. If you were on your deathbed right now and someone came up to you and was like, I will take a screenshot of your mind in the current state that it exists right now, your body will effectively die, but we could upload you to another body. Would you take that?
Oh gee.
Would it even be you though too? Is the big question. Does that transfer soul, if you believe in soul, something that still can't be proven or disproven? That's the big question. But depends how many DMT trips I've had since then, and how many godlike experiences
Yeah.
I've experienced. There's a moral question, which I think we're losing in this day and age, that most people would say yes, but if you think, I don't know, it just depends how you think spiritually. I don't want to get too spiritually on it.
Yeah. But it's almost like the situation of, would you want that to happen? Because then it almost, in a sense, would end up like the Delos project, like how it was great in theory, but in practice, it failed completely. So, yeah. Because it's kind of like the mixture of, what is it, the Black Mirror episode, where like you have the hologram of the woman's daughter or something like that, or the husband or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Caleb's the first test subject, and we're just in the future of the simulation of him having a fidelity test. Shit, I don't know.
Ooh,
but
interesting.
It's mom being on the deathbed. That's back.
Tragic backstory.
Abernathy as well, and his tragic backstory is Francis. And there's a couple of things that lead me to believe. I'm put out in my first video that he's a veteran of the Russian Civil War, and I think he possibly died there and gave his body for science, basically. And because the memories are fudged up. One memory, it looks like he's in normal civilian clothes, which they could be doing some kind of mission, and the other one, he's in full combat gear. So it seems like even his memory is choppy, but human memory is choppy too. So
I was gonna say it could be different missions, or it could be a commentary on exactly that, how different human memory is compared to host memory. Because that is a big thing, or it was a big thing in season 1. I don't know if it really came across, or most people got that, but the flashbacks in which he's just transported to the past was that perfect recollection of memory, and how great it would be to just remember anything that you wanted, but he, at the same time, what it would actually be like to have a perfect recreation of memory just you could pop into, maybe even unbeknownst to yourself.
We don't want that, really, as humans. We don't want perfect memory. We forget things for a reason, I think.
Definitely.
And because it was also at least the Delos project was based off of the memories of the people that knew him. So it'd be people's interpretations of yourself. Because how would they trust your own interpretation of yourself? That's like another thing that they'd have to like ask yourself. It's like, how does the mind interpretate the body almost? Which
they just need to create stacks, Sasa, like an altered carbon. Apparently carries around the soul, I guess. I don't know.
Something like that.
It doesn't answer the question anymore. That's the thing. Is it really you? I don't think it is, in my mind.
No.
What do you think? Oh, go
ahead.
I was passing to you anyway, Hax.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting, like, that perception of self and perception of history and stuff like that. Like, you and I could both be in the same exact room, and simply based on our collective experience and the things that we've gone through, our backstories, we could interpret things entirely different. So it's like, if you recreate me based on your perception of what a event was, and it likely wasn't my perception of it, and because there's no way to possibly know the true unbiased reality, because both parties witnessing it are human and thus biased to their past, or because of their past, then is it even possible to record genuine human events and genuine memories in that kind of way?
That's where Westworld comes in, right? Because that's as genuine as it gets.
It's true.
But it's also brutal, so we're taking men back to caveman times.
So Sasuke brings up a good question, which also leads into my question, which is, was anybody disappointed that the opening credits spoiled the fact that Sizemore Quarterman was in this episode, and I believe that actor is Sizemore's actor, so it's like, were you effectively spoiled with the fact that the character was coming back in this episode, is basically what the question is.
Because he was in that promo or that photo shoot?
He was in the name was in the opening credits.
Oh, I missed that entirely.
So did I.
Yeah, we don't read.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I didn't notice.
Yeah.
But my question is, we see the people that Maeve's closest to throughout her storyline in this episode, and it seems like they don't recognize her until eventually the simulation happens. Do you think that this is the last time we will see these people this season, or the last time at all we will see these characters? Because if we're moving out of the park forever constructively.
Yeah, well, I'll say this season we won't see them again. I think we're gonna get a dose of the real world. I'll put that in quotations on purpose. This season, it's gonna be more about that journey. If if I've read up right, I think this is pretty much the only time we'll see the park or anything like it this season. That doesn't mean we won't get something maybe in the finale, but I think Hector's gone for now. You know, he's in the sky with Teddy. At least we hope. They're playing hopscotch and jumping rope and stuff like that. That's where I feel.
They're getting to kill other people. They're the one killing and not being killed. That's how it works.
I like that it's not just like they have a peaceful existence. It's like if they're not the ones being killed, they're the killers now.
Kaci started a cannibal tribe with Maeve's daughter, and they're the rulers of this land. So.
Yeah. I hope it's not the last time we see them. I love both of these characters so much. I think that they very much represent an aspect of humanity that needs representation. I guess as the nerds of the story, or simply just the people that don't explicitly want to do bad things to other people or robots or anything else. Sylvester is interesting because he's kind of like maybe a more corrupt, more on the morally faulty side, just because some of the lines that he's had and general disrespect or something. I don't know, but Felix just overall just seems like that good, mama's boy, never done anything wrong in his life, genuine nice human being, right? So I hope we see him. I hope that it's not just bad humans for the rest of the story.
Yeah, bad human. I think at least for the season it'll probably be like the last time we go to see these characters. We may come back in like season 4, but yeah, I think for the season though, it seems like it'll be the last bit, unless they surprise us all and they all go back to the park in the season finale.
It's interesting. Like I feel like at the end of season 2, Sylvester would have dipped. That's why when his reaction when he saw Maeve didn't really shock me that much, because he was just like, nope, not again. We're out. We gotta stop this. But Felix was just like, I yelled, or not then. I like, I was just like so heartbroken or taken back that Felix would just like not provide her any comfort or say, or like, gently squeeze her hand to let her know that they're on the same page or something. And it was well delivered.
Yeah, because that tricks you into thinking, wait, this is different, especially when Felix doesn't recognize her. It's when Sylvester's like, because that interaction with Sylvester is more believable, that he'd be like, oh no, I'm not going through this again.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Someone brings up in chat, the big question is how Serac knows all the details about Maeve's encounter in the park, but didn't know she didn't have the other host location. I don't know. I brought this up in the video that I just put out. They have a lot of information about the people that were there, the day-to-day. The story as a whole, the fact that Lee Sizemore and Maeve had any interactions at all, and that also may point to him being the person on life support that they're getting all this information from, as you pointed out earlier. But there's just so much of the story that they have right, that the little bit that they mess up, about like thinking it was like an intimate relationship between Maeve and Sizemore. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Like, we know that there's no cradle. We know that there's no forge. We don't really know if anything has been recorded at all inside the park anymore. So how do we have this information after? And Bernard even shut down all the systems as a part of like letting the hosts out of the park and letting Dolores, have free roam. So you got me. I have no clue.
It could be in this. Well, because we know that at the end of the episode, that Liam Dempsey Jr. has a profile in the park. So, and all of these other people that are associated with Insight and the Rehoboam have it. So it could be like a thing where it's like not malware, but like this thing of because they're from another company coming in, that's like somehow that infiltrates the system almost, and it like gives them information. I don't know. This is more of a big existential tech question or tech analysis, but it could be something like that where there's parts of the information that's getting bled out because they are struggling with because they were public, because they mentioned that in episode 1 that they were public, so it could be something of just somehow got out there. So go ahead.
This could lead to the fact, since human memory is imperfect, and let's say that Lee was obsessed with Maeve and he never told anyone about it. If they're using Lee's memories, have him tied up to a machine. I know we see Dolores hooked up to some crazy shit this season. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see our friend Lee tortured to death. No, I'm just kidding. But, maybe he's hooked up and they're using his memories. We had all the pictures and designs of Maeve. We had the statue of Maeve. We had him really having a crush on her. Her being called Isabella, I think, is another clue. He is actually... Yeah, maybe he had a crush on Maeve. Maybe that was his real feelings. They're tapping into that. Maybe he had an implant. This also connects with emotion. This also has to connect with the brain and the memories. Like, the government or Insight, powerful people, don't give you an implant for the good, most part. Most reasons. They're doing it for bad intentions. And, I don't know. It leads me to believe that Lee's being used somehow, and this is his imperfect memory, and no one else saw how the Valley Beyond got open. No one else saw where they sent it to. Dolores killed Bernard. Dolores killed everyone. And it was just her left, and maybe Lee clinging to life. He did get shot up pretty good, but maybe him clinging to life, they got him on some sort of horrid device. I don't know. That's the best thing I can come up with all the imperfections. It makes for human memory to me.
Yeah.
But,
the Isabella storyline was Hector's original, or his storyline that was before season 1, or in season 1, before Maeve got involved with his storyline, right? Because that was the lost love that he was trying to find. Yeah. That's the one.
That means we'll get to see Lee again. Please don't be mad, chat.
Just sounds like he's just like, no. Insight is becoming more powerful. I think it's because of a lot of things. It's like selling off of information, and plus the bot or whatever that's trying to vote in whatever William would be voting as could be feeding information to Insight as well. It's like if they're having all of these conversations and talks, they'll just be like, oh, here's some information. But
and it kind of they kind of paint this picture that a lot of the world uses their strategy engine. Like it's not just like something that they keep to themselves. So when I saw this, I actually thought that was what it was. Like it was acting on behalf of William and the best interests of the company, as like just a part of the Insight service that you can get, a machine that weighs in your best interests no matter what, or they tell you that it weighs in your best interests no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see.
I have to rewatch
So-
it. Oh, sorry.
Well, I just got to throw this out there because I'm probably going to make a video on it. The more and more I think about it, it makes perfect sense for Hell to be Emily, but that's assuming Emily already had a pearl made. Would the Man in Black go ahead and try to make one for his daughter? And I don't know. I'm trying to make a case for Emily being in Hell. She would know the inner workings of the business better than anyone. She would be able to act that part better than anyone. But that's assuming she already had a pearl made at some point, or Dolores took the time to make a pearl of Emily's. See,
Plus,
I don't know. I'm
al-
poking holes in my own theory, but I feel like
But-
Emily's going to be a host at some point.
plus
So-
also, if she is Hale, then basically she would be the interim CEO or whatever for her father, also as well. So, because if that's how the business is going to be passed down, which is to Emily, then that would kind of make some sense.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in the chat are talking about Sizemore and Maeve. So the question I also have is that when we see the when we see Maeve retrieve her, I guess, a version of her pearl, which is not like a pearl, that it's the differentiation is between black and white. Maeve's is obviously white because she's a good character. So is it like how they would mark it in, like, so let me reread it again. So Maeve meets with Sizemore and they work together to take down the simulation to set her free. We see Maeve find a whole section of pearl-like objects and they are covered white or black. This seemingly wasn't created by Delos, and that it doesn't seem like the forge or the cradle. What kind of room is this, in question mark? So was this a version of the simulation to grasp her consciousness to then be taken to Sarek? So like, was this, because this data set seems different than the data sets we've seen in the past, so was that pearl made by Sarek and that's the only information that they have on all of those characters? Almost, if you understand the question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say.
It'd be interesting. I like it, and with that, it brings up this whole question of how she crashed the machine, because assuming she's one of those pearls, and potentially everyone else is one of those pearls, or Sizemore was one of those pearls. It's really odd that when she crashes the system, she's still able to move around. Assuming that the same system that's running her pearl is running everyone else's, and that's the system that she's crashing. You would think that she would just it would also crash her and Sizemore. But I didn't include this in my video because I think we're probably just overthinking it. It may be data for a theory, but part of me just feels like this is something that they just didn't consider, because it was like they showed us that now Lee was aware that he was in a simulation, so maybe that was enough to be the people that weren't affected. However that works, I don't know, but yeah, it's something's off with it. And the white and black pearls, part of me sees that this could be like 1,000 copies of Maeve, or something of the sort. But yeah, we really don't have much information.
Well, 1,000 copies of Maeve. Johnny 5, I think his code was written perfectly. I don't know. I'm just segueing into Johnny 5. We may be overlooking that. I think at least if that place is real.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck this show. If that place is real, that it's plugged into Rehoboam. It's plugged into that main simulation. I mean, because why wouldn't you use that? He has access to that. He is the only one, the sole owner and the only one that knows how it works. He has I mean, like a board somewhat, but he strong arms so Liam Dempsey pretty easy, so we don't have to worry about that. You would think it's plugged into there. You would think that Maeve isn't the only one's core they stole, but maybe you'd probably see more evidence of that at the park, but maybe because we didn't see much and they only went and looked for Maeve, we don't know who else was taken as well, right? We don't know how many hosts are gone.
To jump in there real fast, we did see this, like, when they were showing us the cold storage, they panned out on this pile of bodies. And I was like, why would they do that? And then I went and watched it, and I was like, 100%. And I'm sorry, even when they were walking past, there were some bodies of the erect cold storage hosts that were just laying around on the ground as if like someone had just come and taken them. The only thing that doesn't align with that theory at all is that Maeve was able to keep standing with no Pearl. So I don't really know why some are laying on the ground and some aren't. Yeah.
And like have her skull missing at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may be a throwaway, and they're showing us all those pearls just to rack our brains, because there were so many in that room that maybe it is a simulation inside of simulation hacks. Johnny Five was never meant to escape. The human-on-robot violence continues. Go Team Dolores. I don't know what Maeve's thinking. But it would still play into her, being in the simulation with Serac at the end. Either way, I don't think it would take away from the scene. And we got a hashtag erect. Thank you.
Hashtag erect.
I knew that was coming, and I snickered and laughed at it like a kindergartner.
Yeah, but, we all laughed. We're
yeah, we've all been in the house way too long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
that's my excuse, yeah.
Yeah, this is going back a slight second, but I have to rewatch the promo that they had of I guess it's like the commercial or whatever for Insight, but I think they mentioned like, give us your business and then we'll protect your data or something like that, so that could have been a thing.
Thanks, Facebook.
Okay. So it could have been something like that, or that there's the thing of how Insight wants to make a merger with Delos, or that Insight wants to take over Delos at some point, so they're just collecting all
buy
of
them out.
Yeah, buy them out, or collect as much information. Be like, well, you have to give us over your company. We'll just pay you for it, for all this information.
Can I ask y'all this? So I was chumming around on the Delos website like we do, and we have Delos Robotics, and they have the 3 new machines we see, including oh my God, what's it, George, and the mech that we see, and also the little cow, what do you, handmaiden.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just does everything. It doesn't look like it does everything. It's really weird. But Delos Robotics is a very big company as well. We see the entertainment side of Delos, but they're also seemingly running most of the robotics around town. That would be key for Insight to delve into, and we have this massacre for them to, swoop on in and try to buy the company at least. We see Hell does not want that to happen. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting to consider why she wouldn't want that to happen, and why specifically we have so much dialogue about her wanting to take the company private. It seems like she's privileged to information that we aren't, and then we have to start filling in blanks about timelines and what exactly happened after she left the park to that meeting. But I think that I don't know, something you touched on. I think that after everything went to shit, that like we've kind of been hinted in season 1. We were hinted about corporate espionage happening after they discovered the woodcutter trying to get data out of the park, and I really think that after the park went south and half the people were dead and are trying to figure out how to escape, that was just the best time for them to swoop in and take those pearls out. It's like part of me thinks that maybe we're seeing different timelines, and it was a buyout, and you know, that it's just their information now. They rebuilt the cradle. They rebuilt the cradle because they owned it now. But I don't know. Part of me likes this idea that they just were this super secret team and understood exactly what was happening and in and out got everything they needed.
Are we getting a 5-year time jump this season at some point in time? Did I
Well, the marketing
heard that around town?
The marketing this season on Twitter that I've seen on HBO says "Welcome to 2058." So
Yeah.
I assume there's a time jump. And at
Okay,
some
so
point-
here's my theory. Maeve is in the real world, but it's 5 years in the future, and Dolores has already about devastated everything. Serac even says they're close to being extinct already, or close to being wiped out. Dolores took them by surprise. Maybe this is in the future. And then we got the different timeline scenario along with the simulation scenario. I don't know, whatever. But that could account for the 5-year time jump, and they could still even be in a simulation, and this be 5 years in the future, them trying to plan out what they're going to do about Dolores. So yeah. All right, I just confused myself even more. Thank you.
I do think that the time jump is related to Maeve, because she's gonna have to go and catch up with Dolores at some point, because Maeve is technically, because Dolores is already in LA and she's been out of the park for 3 months. She's known Liam for 1 month, so Maeve has had to catch up to what Dolores is doing. So it's been 4 months since the end of season 2. So then it's like she goes to Sarek, and then I think the timeline with Bernard, because then we have to catch up with Bernard, and then Bernard and Maeve and Stubbs go and find Dolores. So I feel like the time jump is gonna revolve around Maeve getting to Dolores, because
Yeah.
I can assume that Dolores is gonna get her army and everything assembled, and then Maeve shows up and be like, "Oh, gotta kill you now," like kind of thing, like we've seen in the promos.
You know what's interesting is like oh my god, what if, so we see Dolores express explicitly that she wants to keep the host or keep the park private. The only reason you would do that is if you don't want to share your intellectual property. The only thing that really exists now is the host code, and they made it seem like they were, you know, like when the park is functioning, it is a fully operational printing center for new hosts. They could effectively create armies to just take over the world. And while I think that's possible, you know, what if what we're seeing with Maeve is actually Dolores having rebuilt the cradle, and she is protecting the park so that in the park she can continue to run these simulations about how to get close to Surak. Like, you know, conceptually maybe a little flawed, but like she is, you know, she's going through the steps to see exactly how she needs to get Maeve to infiltrate Surak, and then for whatever reason in the end have her favorable outcome come out. If that makes sense.
I mean, well, she could be using Maeve. She had an opportunity while Maeve was dead to tamper with her as well, and there's a big deal about, did Bernard wondering if Dolores tampered with him. Also, when we saw this flashes, I saw a chance for her to make 2 Bernards. There was another spot for a Pearl while she was making Bernard, and that could be who is in hell, a different Bernard. I'm gonna just make a video asking all these questions about every different person we think could be in hell, because I think it's gonna be fun, and we're not gonna get the reveal next episode.
I hope
so
we do,
something
man.
we'll be able to. I hope we get at least 2 more episodes before we get that reveal. Let's just draw it out, okay? But Dolores, you know, you talk about the armies, and I think I said something about this before, is the implants, and if Maeve still has her power, or if she had, you know, if Serac is working with her, they could fiddle with the human implants, while Dolores has all these Delos machines, the mechs, which is the law and order. It's like It's like the mech from RoboCop, actually. Looks a lot like that. Looks pretty badass and foreboding. We also saw a scene with Hale like touching it, like bonding with the mech at some point. We got the Georges, which I think, you see them seeing him climbing up the wall. We're gonna see George climb up the wall in a battlefield scenario. I'm positive of that, and it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah.
And it's literally gonna be humans versus machines, possibly. Ooh, it could get really good. And what we've seen with the face-off that we're probably gonna get in the season finale, they're gonna make us wait that long. Yes, there could be chaos and havoc being wreaked around, and Caleb is the wild card here. For one, he's got his implant turned off. He's catching some shit about that at the VA. He just doesn't want to use it, and we got to think there is a group of humans that don't want to use that'll be willing to rebel, that realize they're stuck in a loop and they have no free will.
Yeah.
And the motto for this season is free will isn't free. So if the humans want it, they're going to have to fight for it. If the hosts want it, they're going to have to fight for it. And yeah, I could see a culmination of some epic events nearing the end of this season. I done got myself excited. How about you guys?
Always excited.
It seems like we're gonna, like, the final episode is gonna be like this divergence of these two characters trying to battle it out, which, Johnny, your statements have brought me to basically what my next question is. So at the end,
accidental segue.
Yeah, at the end of this episode, highlight that Serac, Insight, and Rehoboam are able to predict the future. Serac mentions that there was a divergence, and it comes down for it to being Dolores, and then gives Maeve the mission to kill Dolores. Will Maeve kill Dolores, or is this going to be something where both are alive at the end, as we have approximately 2 more seasons left? So if Dolores dies, where does this story go if you kill off one of the 5 main characters? This is a big overarching question, but if you kill off one of the main POV characters, how does that impact the story?
I would say that I don't think Dolores dies, simply because she has invoked a lot of emotion. Both, season 1 you want her to win, season 2 you want her to lose, season 3 they're either, well, I guess it could be either of those, right? But I think that she is very much the main force of this whole story. If they kill her off and then Maeve has to carry the mantle, I don't know if Maeve is as developed of a character, or as as many people like Maeve as they like Dolores. I'm definitely in the minority here. I love Maeve much more than Dolores, but Dolores just feels like the story, whereas Maeve feels like a player of that story.
Yeah, I think Caleb will kill Maeve. Caleb won't be affected. She won't see him coming. She's gonna ask, "Is that you, Teddy?" And he's gonna be like, "No," and then stab her. But
Wait, you mean Maeve or Dolores?
Maeve.
Oh, okay.
But I think that this is why, because I don't think Maeve will really die. I think we'll get a point where we think Maeve is dead again. But Serac has made a backup of her. He's not going to let his one and only weapon and not have a copy.
Yeah.
This guy's very efficient, and that's what I could see. I could see us thinking that Maeve is gone, and then she has a chance to come back. It would be very Westworldy. I'm sure they'll pull it off more eloquent than I put it, but in general, that's what I think. If any one of them has to die. Bernard is really interesting, though. You could argue you could have a whole show with Maeve and Dolores paralleling each other, and Bernard doesn't necessarily have to be in there right now.
Yeah.
But that makes me think what his impact on the future will be. Because it's to stop Dolores. It's to stop Dolores. Well, we know that that's not going to be in the end, and he has this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde persona. So I think we're going to have some switcheroos, at least as far as his way of thinking is going. And with actually Stubbs being there, I got this question to y'all. Do you think Stubbs not having a cornerstone, but he has went through some experiences that, he still has the memories of, and he's going to go through more experiences. Could a host that was designed not to evolve actually evolve consciousness or sentience, so to speak? Free will, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know.
It's because they made it a point in this episode to mention what Stubbs' whole purpose of being in existence was, which is just to protect all the hosts until Ford changed that, and then was to kill himself afterwards. But then at the end, we see that his new core directive is to protect Bernard Lowe at all costs. So it seems like that he is going to inevitably get the tragic backstory. It just, will it be almost too late? Like, it almost seems like near the end of, not to be mean, but the end of his usefulness of this is when he'll be somewhat given that tragic backstory. Or the tragic backstory is that Bernard dies and he wasn't able to fulfill his quote-unquote core directive, which could be like that sort of thing, where it's like, yes, he was able to fulfill it, where the hosts were able to be free and all of this stuff, and then he like kills himself or attempts to. But then now, because his core directive is solely about Bernard and they're the buddy cop duo of the rest of the season, that it seems like Bernard could die in front of him, and then he's like, what? And then he like lives on with that, because they did also mention in the episode how he wants
a piece of Bernard is also in Stubbs as well, of that C6 vertebrae. So technically, Stubbs can't kill himself without harming a piece of Bernard. I like where you're going with this, Sasa.
And then, because we
if
also
you want to get technical about it,
we also learn in the episode or two through a small bit of dialogue that Bernard's like, I can't wait till I retire. But the thing is, he probably won't get to retire. Either that or he won't get to retire. But I feel like
Dolores will retire him really quick.
But it seems like though something's gonna happen to Bernard, which will then give Stubbs his tragic backstory. Because I don't know if he's gonna get an epic ending.
Yeah, I really like the idea that we're about to see his cornerstone be developed. We know that all hosts have a cornerstone. We don't know what Stubbs is, but I think it'd be really interesting to see if the fully awakened hosts rely on that anymore, or if they completely understand, their what they are and who they are, knowing then at that point that they don't really need to rely on a fictional backstory. Because I think part of being self-aware is knowing exactly what does and what doesn't affect you, and as such, you could probably remove that if you were genuinely, practicing free will. But I think there's something really interesting there. I really like the dynamic between Stubbs and Bernard. I don't want to see either of them die, but just the image of like Stubbs holding Bernard as he like passes away because Dolores killed him or something, and then that becoming like, the Hemsworth storyline. I just love it.
Yeah. Also, the dual edge battle axe, he was able to wield that very well. You could tell he played Dungeons and Dragons as a child. Rolled a lot of 16s. I'm just saying. But on my mind with that, Sasa, he might not even have to have a cornerstone, just takes experiences in general, and he knows, he's aware of what's going on. He hasn't found the center of his maze, so to speak, but he's aware enough, and Bernard at some point will probably finagle with him. I mean, he seems like... Go ahead. Sorry, I'm trailing off here.
It says, plus, he wasn't able to kill himself. So I can't remember, but it seems like he must have tried to attempt to kill himself after the season finale, or did he do it? Because I can't remember now at this point. Because if it was supposed to be after and he knew that Bernard was safe, then he would have tried. But then I guess there was something in the core, like in his core system, that knew he was going to have to come back. Because he does ask that question of, why did you come back, Bernard? And it's like, to be with Maeve. So it could be something like, the whole reason why he's still alive is because of Bernard.
Yeah, it's also really interesting to think, how did he miss? You know, like, does he not know where to shoot?
Is he not a robot?
Is he not a robot? Yeah, like, how is this imperfection that would be a very much human thing happening to Stubbs right now?
I think Rock may have tampered with him. Whenever they stole Maeve's pearl, they tampered with Stubbs. Maybe. You know, but they would have to know a lot to know where Stubbs is.
They'd have to know so much.
Mind blower here.
Yeah.
You know, if they're trying to get all this information out of the park, how did they know all this anyway? You know, that's so many questions that you get into a wormhole of brain hurt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And no, that's not safe to click Hex Dogma. Trust me, I've clicked on Sasake's links before. They can...
Yeah.
They're archive of our own. They're at the fanfic website, so I have everything on that one.
I was expecting like Rule 42 or something based on the context of that, but yeah.
Yeah, so we can talk about the meta-ness of David and Dan, but we'll do that after. But the last big question is, Bernard points out that Liam Dempsey has a guest profile in the park. To me, it seems like he was once in the park, specifically Westworld, but never had an interaction with Dolores, so wouldn't suspect her host's self. Was Liam a guest of the Westworld park, but never interacted with the ranch's daughter, or was he in another park, or was this information deduced based off somebody else's profile? Because this could have been something. This was before we had a conversation pre-stream, but yeah.
Well, Hax has exact data, and I'm gonna let him go with that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like we have a discussion with Bernard and Stubbs on the beach about the people that Dolores was investigating. I very much took this as Dolores and him have had some interaction, you know, whether it be inside the park, outside the park. Like, the reason that, you know, they know so much about Logan is that he was, you know, they interacted, like Angela and Akishita interacted long before, you know, he actually stepped foot in the park. So I think it's really interesting that we might see a scene where that happens, another Dolores outside of the park, but still in her loop scene. But just so that we can see exactly what she's recalling from, is what I mean. But I don't know. The biggest question with all of that, given that that's true, is that how does Liam not know who Dolores is before he meets her? And yeah, I don't know. Because on that tablet, we also see that he's gone to the park 17 times. Now, Westworld, in my opinion, is the most boring park you could possibly go to. Now that we see, like, you know, killing Nazis and fighting dragons is the other thing that you can do there. But
hunt tigers too.
Tigers, yeah. But yeah, so like there's nothing to say that he definitely went and interacted with her a lot, but they must have interacted at least once, and he's gone to the park 17 times. So I don't know. I'm going to suspend my disbelief, but yeah.
I keep thinking about that little guy that in the first season when Rebus was coming up on Dolores, and the guy said, "Hey, I thought I told you I wanted something easy."
Yeah.
And, you know, that reminds me of a Liam Dempsey type. You know, he doesn't want too much. But I don't see him hanging out with Rebus, and Rebus was kind of the key to how you got to Dolores. You know what I mean? There's so many things to do in the park as well that he could have very well went off on a different path Dolores saw him from afar, as she sees every damn thing. The lone wolf running through the park, just causing havoc, basically.
Yeah.
But she doesn't forget a damn thing. So if she just saw him for a second, maybe he got in a gun duel with Teddy. It could be something like that. But he also, if he had a run-in with her, it's like nobody recognizes her. That's a great point. Even the security, he went there on what was it, bachelor party or whatever, and he doesn't remember what he did to Dolores. Like, these rich people are assholes. It makes you wonder how many times they did that to people, or maybe this is just a show and they don't actually cover every single base every single time. We can allow them a little bit of a slip up, but because she doesn't look that much different, she's just not wearing country clothes.
Yeah,
and she doesn't.
Yeah, that's it.
And her accent is just plain American, not like a Southern accent.
And what would have been cool to me, I think, if Dolores was going all dark and heavy this season, if she would have like dyed her hair black or something. She has to know that these people she interacts with would recognize her, and just because she has a dress that can change at the pull of a pin, doesn't like cover up her face and her distinctive blonde hair. That's not. It's very distinctive. So yeah.
Whatever. I talked about this idea of her being recognized before this season started as something that they would have to work around because, I mean, she's the oldest host in the park. Like, it is so statistically likely that someone recognizes her, and as such, she would have to use, Charlotte Hale much more than we're actually seeing. But yeah, she just traverses these parties in the open with the billionaires, the people who have saved humanity. Like, she is literally courting the person who may be the most famous person in the world right now. And no one is questioning it. No one is like, oh yeah, that's Dolores. Like,
yeah.
Shouldn't they have a warrant out for Dolores too? But no, her body was found there, right?
Yeah.
She had a body left there, so they wouldn't be looking for her. Yeah, you wouldn't have it. Okay, and Sasaki says, yeah, but if you're just there to F a bunch of robots, are you paying attention to what their faces look like? I mean, yeah, I'm a face dude, so, but...
It seems, I think I brought this up last week with Justin, but it seems like Logan, Liam is kind of like a more emotionally stable version of Logan, so he probably had a similar experience in the park, like Logan did all of those times, but just never interacted with her. That's how I can kind of see how it works, because Logan had his own adventures.
Yeah, Logan just closed his eyes, pulled down his pants, and just did whatever, wherever his weather vane took him.
And you mentioned, Hax, that Liam was a black hat, and Logan always chose the black hat, so it doesn't mean pretty much anything. Almost, it could be in that as well. So it could be just the rich boy having the fun times in the park.
Yeah. And I think the other part of that is like, these are the titans of industry, people that meet thousands of people that run the world. We can, like, I think I remember most people that I interact with, probably not name wise, but face. I think most people are really good at remembering people's faces. But when you're the celebrity, when you're uber famous and wealthy, I have to imagine your arrogance is also much different, and maybe purposefully, or just because you see so many people, you're not really caring to focus on any one person.
Yeah, you think Kevin Federline remembers every face?
Oh God, yeah.
Well,
that's a good point.
it also then, in some sense, proves that Dolores isn't like always rememberable. She's rememberable to William, but not to the other people that she's interacted with. It almost seems like, because it makes William a special case for her, almost.
That is a good
point.
Oh,
William will never forget the face that broke his heart and told him they had to be an asshole incel for the rest of his life. That's that's William.
It's because it
Poster child.
poster job. Yeah, it seems like that's one of the things that makes kind of sense. Is like if they all don't remember her, but she remembers them, and the only person that remembers her is William, then that means something. And then if the chat has any questions, you can pop them in. But this is not really a question. Well, it is kind of a question. Is like we all knew that David and Dan were gonna show up as behavioral techs in episode 2. When you actually saw them interact on this show, were you like, this is so meta, or you're like, oh, this is it? Like having them be there and behind the scenes, like with the whole, and then Drogon showing up as well.
It's pretty awkward, right? It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And they're going to cut up the dragon to sell to Costa Rica because they don't know if they're getting fired or not. Fire all of them, Delos. Start over. Y'all are the most incompetent people at hiring anyone. You can't hire. I mean, whatever. They don't even do background checks. Felix is like the only good worker I've ever seen there. Everyone else is just incompetent and wants to have sex with the necrophiliac dolls while they're not awake.
Yeah, it's funny. Even Felix was, stole a tablet so that he could teach himself programming. Like even he wasn't a Star Citizen, I enjoyed it. I liked seeing him just because it was a funny joke. Them admitting that or them saying that they were getting laid off or might get laid off, and I really wish that they had just a single line about how this was their fault or they fucked up or botched something, and I don't know. I would have liked to see that, but yeah, I didn't mind it. And of course, the Costa Rica line is about Jurassic Park, so they did all the Easter eggs just in one quick little joke, and hopefully now every scene isn't like a joke kind of thing. They got it out of the way.
Do you think we'll see medieval world in the seasons ahead?
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
We have bit off a lot with the dragons.
Yeah. We have one more park that we don't know of yet. I believe. I thought one of the scenes was showing us a Viking scenario, and then another scene was showing us the fantasy. So I thought that was all the parks, but I was very much in the minority there. I haven't seen anyone else talk about that online. It was just this unknown fantasy or medieval world thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll see it in the same sense that we saw War World and Shogun World as just like a passing thing. Actually, probably less than, because we had stories inside of both of those worlds. I doubt we'll see more than that. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, because they really showed. Well, they've shown Westworld. They showed a lot of the Raj. They showed a lot of Shogun World. So if we're going back to the park in season 4, we have to find a reason to go back to that park. Back to the parks in general, and then we also have to find out what the park, what medieval world is. So, and which would be interesting to explore, because we all know that, or at least George R.R. Martin has admitted that he's wanted a crossover between the two worlds. So, I mean, it would be funny if they had medieval worlds and they had cameos from all of the characters from Game of Thrones. But I know it's highfalutin dreaming at this point. But
oh yeah.
Although
imagine just Jon Snow sitting there as a host or something, just ready to be revived.
Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Or it's like in a sense.
Me auntie.
It's like he almost picks up kind of the Hector storyline of medieval world, because it's because of his past story with Ygritte or something like that, and he's he keeps calling the person Ygritte all the time or something. It'd be just one of those things where it's meant for fan fiction, but it becomes a reality.
Yeah.
And then because we
Well,
have in the
The
movie.
last park is going to be a 1980s park. It'll be like Boy George World or something like that.
Boy George.
All
That'd
right.
be it. Or that 70s show park.
A 70s show. I don't know. Viking
Yeah.
World sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
What else
very
could
true.
it be?
History's Viking World. That's what it'll be.
Well, if that's the case, is if they do Viking World, then they could have Gustav Skarsgård come back for a cameo. Yeah, because he was in season 2 of Westworld. Yeah, that is
Exactly why they can't do it, because Floki is buried under a mountain.
I'm
Haven't y'all seen? He's gone. He's never coming back. I'm just kidding.
So that could be a question, because we know that the movie had Roman World as one of their parks, and then
yeah.
Future World.
Didn't we see some Romans already last season? Maybe not.
No, we saw an homage to Roman World when they go to the adulterous town for the first time. You know what I'm talking about? Like the women are painted gold. That's where they meet the Confederados.
Oh,
the whole
yes,
train
yes,
thing.
yes, yes. Well, the one thing that nobody wants it to be is Future World, okay? And if it is, they gotta have flying saucers or something and little
Yeah.
gray aliens, because
Super
don't
future.
tell us we're in a park this whole season, okay?
That'd be
Nolan, Joy, you hear me? Okay.
So yeah, Peter Griffin brings up a good question. So would Bernard be Bran downloading the WeirNet? Yes, that gave me
Ooh.
serious flashbacks to Bran, and I was like, hopefully someone who's not prone to seizures is watching this sequence go down, because I bet that's very trippy, like just like the flashes. But I guess so. He was kind of acting like Bran.
It's interesting.
Or,
like- go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say they could be really overt and do a Christian world. That would be awful with Jesus and everything. They'd be like, oh, you're just getting crazy with the symbolism now, guys.
It's just like his followers, and someone has to play Judah. Is that what we're getting at?
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
I could see it.
Sorry.
Spartacus world. I mean, that could be interesting. The world,
Yeah.
like Roman.
I rudely cut you off, Hacked.
Oh no, Jesus, no. I was just thinking about the similarities between the three-eyed raven and like hosts recalling memories kind of thing, but it meant nothing.
Caesar.
What- okay.
It's Julius.
Go ahead,
Caesar
Sasa.
world.
What you got?
Julius Caesar. No, everybody's talking about. Sasuke says that if it's a medieval Britain park, which is early enough, then Vikings and etc. could be a huge part. I mean, Viking
Well-
World would be interesting. It just, what would be the last park? Because they said Park 1 was where Maeve's daughter was. So, we've
The
never.
last park is MIB's house.
Dun,
Boom.
dun.
Mic drop.
Boom.
It's like, I have my own park now. It's like you like rub the pen together.
Wait. William is the park. Is Park 5.
Boom. That's
Boom.
it right there.
You heard it first. Exclusive.
Exclusive theories.
But this is that William, because he
Multiple worlds in the grain, in his hand as a grain of sand. I don't know. I'm trying to make a weird rhyme out of that Plutarch shit.
well, because his whole thing of like, where's the center of the maze? Where's the center? Like his whole thing was like the journey of like discovering the park, and it's like, well, you are the park, or like your mind is the actual park. So.
You are the park, and Murray goes wild in the background.
Wow.
Ah!
Peter
Bid
Griffin.
$1 on that green refrigerator.
Peter Griffin, you can ask the question, because it's fine. Yeah, I think actually probably talked about this, and I think we've all talked about this, I guess, about War World, but it's like, I know we talked about it last week with Justin, but how did they pick their park? So did they do the quiz, or did they just ask people, or oh, this was an important point in history, so let me just do about World War II this park? How did their business decision on how they decided, let's make a park about World War II?
You mean as the showrunners, how they came to that? Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of amazing stories in World War II that often go overlooked. The occupation of Italy and or not the occupation, but the involvement with Italy and I was at one point I was going to start another channel talking about little fragments of history, and the occupation of Denmark is a fascinating story that would have been a perfect plot for Westworld. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think they knew a random story and were like, okay, let's make it Italy, make a World War II. Who doesn't like killing Nazis? Boom, story.
Well, we could have it as well, whereas that's one town with one scenario. Next town over is Civil War, War World. The next town over we have, because it could just be how Escalante, how Sweetwater, all of that was a different feel. Maybe if you're in War World, it isn't World War II world, so they could play with that, I'm sure. They got enough money to as well.
Yeah, I like seeing the big cargo plane, and we also see a quick fighter jet fly by as they're running across the bridge, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to go, be a pilot in a world where I can't get hurt,
Exactly, exactly. Where it's yeah. So actually, I've come with this
Peter
question.
Griffin.
Yeah, with Peter Griffin's question. So it says, Sarek, they're in the middle of a war, but no one knows about it, and it's already been lost. Has me thinking. 1, this is probably the past. 2, the Braavosi computer seeing where it all went wrong. Why is Sarek using they and us with Maeve? Is that Dolores?
Ooh, interesting. I took it as humanity.
Go ahead.
He was speaking on behalf of humanity.
And from my tinfoil earlier, Serac and Maeve are 5 years in the future. From where we're seeing Dolores, from where we're seeing Bernard. That may or may not be right, though.
I when he talks about it. He talks about how, he doesn't care about the present. He knows everything that's going to happen for the next X amount of time, and that's what he concerns himself with, the future strictly. Which is much more interesting when you think about the fact that he must have known that Maeve was going to try to kill him, thus prompting him to have that remote. But it also means that he knows exactly when she's going to align and exactly how she's going to behave, and why they couldn't, or why didn't he take a more efficient path to get her to align with him? If he can see the future and knows exactly how many times she's going to have to go through this to align with his interests, why not just skip to that and go to that, that scenario in which it plays out perfectly for him? Yeah.
Yeah, he's desperate at this point. He thought the enemy was going to be Maeve. Yeah. Dolores came out of nowhere. So Dolores wasn't supposed to ever make it out of the park, basically, is what I'm gathering from Serac. Dolores was probably supposed to want to go to Virtual Eden with Teddy, right? That might have been the initial plan, I guess, or she just wasn't supposed to make it. Maeve was supposed to leave, and this definitely surprised Ford because she came back for her daughter. And Bernard was never supposed to come back to the park, but he came back to the park anyway. Mm-hmm. So free will has caused a butterfly effect that Serac cannot account for. And this is why he's probably taking this chance with actually interacting with Maeve and not really... We don't know how many simulations he did before she ever got out of there. How long was she, in there before she actually woke up like she did? So we really don't know the answer to those questions, but it does make you wonder. And this very powerful man, he's not showing it, but his actions seem desperate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like he's looking for answers that he doesn't quite understand himself. which is probably pretty jarring from the last X amount of years having this machine that tells him the future, so.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, what do you do? With like knowing all of the what is most likely going to come. It's like that existential question of, if you could, would you like to know the future, kind of thing. And it's like, as a business decision, probably for big corporations, I'm like, yeah, I want to know the future so I can jump on whatever business that comes up, and be like, and bring stocks into that. But for your own personal
Well, that
life,
goes.
a lot of people
Oh,
are like,
sorry.
nope. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that goes into Dolores as well, and everyone's wondering how Dolores is staying ahead of Rehoboam. She's a supercomputer herself. I'm sure not as powerful as Rehoboam, but she can predict the future pretty damn well, I'm sure. Especially in this world where the humans are just all in their loops, and how predictable they are. Yeah, she read a few books, but she learned more from what AI Logan told her about just how simple human beings are. No matter what he did, it always come back to the same base animalistic instincts, and they would always react the same in certain situations. So I think, we kind of forget about that how it's more than Dolores just being smart. She has a lot of processing power, and predicting things is something that her computer brain would definitely be capable of doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question from Sasuke, and it made me laugh. So I know you didn't see me laughing, Johnny, but I was laughing. So Sasuke says, so Bernard and Stubbs left the park via a tiny rowboat, right? Are they going to Gendry it up in the South China Sea or something? I guess they're robots, so they can row for a while. I mean, yeah, like, where are they rowing to? Are they rowing to the boat that
Back
Bernard...
out to the boat, I'm sure. But if we could see them, they'll have like this Gilligan's Island scenario where they get washed up on the beach. Which one's Skipper? Which one's Gilligan? We'll have to figure all that out at some point. But yes, the rest of the season, Sasaki, we're just going to see them rowing, trying to get to Los Angeles. It's going to take them forever. That's where I think they're going, right? They're going to Los Angeles.
That's
and if they have to row all the way across the Pacific Ocean, that would be great TV.
That would also take maybe the 6 years or however as long it's going to take for the time jump. It's like, welcome to 2058, and it's like they finally get there in the last episode, sunburnt and everything. They'll be like, what are we doing? And then it's like the whole sequence is playing out in front of them, and be like, God darn it. But that'd be funny.
You see them like Kevin Costner in Waterworld making themselves a human lure to catch fish, right? Wasn't that the best scene ever?
Waterworld gets so much shit.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I remember watching it when I was younger and thinking, oh yeah, that's nice. That's a cool concept.
Gilligan's Island with Bernard and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that'd be funny. Yeah,
My kid didn't wish they could breathe underwater though, too.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie knows nothing about this.
No.
Watch Waterworld.
Waterworld.
You got some time to waste.
Exactly. I have enough time. Yeah, that's why there's the time jump, is Bernard and Stubbs are going to be rowing. And then
for 5 years. It'll take them about 5 years to row there, too.
And then they get to LA, and then they're like, in the season finale, and they go, we're here! And then it's like right as the war is about to, the big final clash is about to happen, and it's like, stop! And then it's like, that's how it ends or something. It'll be something so stupid. But the last question that I have before we can go crazy is the big prediction for the next couple episodes, or next episode, wherever you want to take that question. So what's a prediction that you got?
I think next episode we will see exactly what William is up to, and maybe the kind of like hellscape prison thing that he's been a part of. And I think it's entirely fair to say that because of what we saw in this episode, that maybe he's in a simulation. I don't know. Maybe this also points to the reveal at the end of season 2 that looked far in the future. That also simply being a simulation. just to maybe teach him the lesson of why this, technology is so scary. But yeah, I think we'll probably have a pretty big William centric episode coming up.
Downey?
Yes, I think it's going to be half the episode will be William. Half of it is going to be Caleb and Dolores getting to know each other. Dolores has apparently been watching Caleb, like Nadia does to Gregor and what we do in the shadows. I've been seeing a man. He doesn't see me, though. So that's basically what Dolores has been doing this whole time. A little bit of stalking. Caleb is an interesting dude. We're going to see how he feels about it. He gets along with George pretty well, but we can't say he's that into technology. One of the first lines is, the technology is supposed to make it a better world. Well, he doesn't know. He doesn't know how much better it is. It's just the world to him. This goes back to William and Dolores to me as well. This is why it's going to tie in very nicely, because Caleb's looking for someone real. William was looking for something real as well.
Yeah.
So this is a chance for Dolores to redeem herself, at least love story wise. She turned Billy incel. She made Teddy kill himself. Now let's do the right thing. Third time's a charm, Dolores. We're gonna start off a decent, loving relationship. Kill him later, okay? But I just want to see a little progress from you right now, okay? Just, let's have at least one boyfriend mentally and physically survive the season. That's all I want at this point.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, Caleb is kind of the best of both worlds, almost. It's like the human side, which was William, but like the I want to go on adventures with you kind of side of Teddy, because she seemingly, based off the previews, is stringing him along, because it's like, one of the lines she says, it's like, what if this plan doesn't work, or whatever, and he's like, then we kill everybody. Which is like a big thing with what she was doing, and it's pretty much the reason as to why she doesn't, if Teddy is in charge and whatever, all that stuff, is that she doesn't want to let him go. So it's like, I'm just going to string you along forever. So my answer to that question is, we're going to get, it seems like the house that William is in has to be his own house with Juliet, and the simulation that he's going to have to live with is probably Juliet's suicide. So like the whole the cycle of like her finding out about the tablet with all the memories and the logs of his times in Delos, and then like leading to her eventual suicide. Like that seems like his loop that he's gonna have to deal with until Dolores eventually shows up and is like, haha, I'm here to do whatever, like based off of that. Yeah, it seems like that's his loop for now, which is probably going nuts.
Okay, well, what about this too? So we see in the previews he like comes out of the bathtub, like he was almost drowning, he jumped out of there with the gun, whatever. I feel like Man in Black needs a redemption, right? Mm-hmm. Also, they're heavy with the Bible references. Okay, so we could have this scenario where he has a baptism. And what better place than in the tub where your wife killed herself because you're a piece of shit human being. You also killed your daughter, who, I'm going to go ahead and keep saying it, that's who's in hell right now. How the hell would they ever be in hell? Whose hell is hell anyway? But William has to figure out how to save the world, so to speak, or at least he thinks he's going to. And that begs the question, is he going to be still alive when we see him? Or is he going to be the beginnings of Host William when we see him?
I don't know. I hope we don't get too much of this. Like, I want to see William's natural progression on or in a linear way, just like, because I think there's a good enough story that it doesn't need to jump back and forth to kind of leave us in suspension. But at least from where we are right now.
we have the sequence in the trailer that shows like people digging into his teeth or like doing dental work, and we know from our own world that like dental work is usually one of the tell signs of how they identify people's bodies of people who've been like murdered, and you can't easily identify them. So it could be something like that where like Dolores is probably trying to get those records almost so that he can so that she could copy him almost, because I do feel like there's gonna be a William host. It's just they don't have all of the information that they need to recreate the person that.
Well, they got his SIM card, right, or his personality card.
Mm-hmm.
It has his whole personality on it. The only thing that it didn't record is what happened to Emily, but Dolores was there enough to get that. It wouldn't take as long to get most of that information, right? Just everything after the card was made. I think. And maybe that's.
Yeah, I could see it either way. I could see it as like that single card containing all the data, or just strictly pointing to the data, like it was still stored on the Forge hard drive, but it was just an indicator to show exactly who William was.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I mean, I would think it could be used to make a pearl at least.
Yeah.
But
Or a ring.
does just makes you wonder who all she grabbed. Like if she read anybody's book, could she recreate those people from just reading their books? Since a lot of this has to do with memory.
Yeah.
So when you get into deep water here,
Yeah.
what can Dolores create?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like how can you? Because it's because didn't they explain it's like the recreation of someone is based off of like the last person who remembers you, like makes the thing. So I don't know. Could be something. They could be messing with their own timelines here, but Sasuke brings up the question: do you think that they will ever truly address all the hosts in the quote Valley Beyond? Yes, but that seems like a final season kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like to think that like if robots take over the world, this information still exists. Excuse me, and they can essentially give the hosts the option to live in this virtual Eden. Excuse me, or be 3D printed back into reality.
Yeah, well, I mean, what if Maeve wants to go there too? She wants to go there to be with her daughter. She don't want to live in this piece of shit world. She about drilled her brains out. I mean, even though thankfully it was all simulation, but she was gonna decommission herself. She was gonna make herself into another Clementine, which that's scary. That's a lot of desperation to want to do that, and that just shows how much. Yeah, that shows how much her freedom means to her. How much her just doing whatever the hell she wants to do, because she's a free woman or free host, and the ultimate thing is her being with her daughter. Now, Sirach's definitely going to use that. He's already talked about it, and I think we'll get it more addressed this season. I think we'll actually find out near the end of the season what's on that information packet that Abernathy had. We'll find out why it's so important. Could be as simple as what I stated earlier, that it's just the Immortality Project, and if you put that info into Rehoboam, it could do fidelity tests without having to do it in the real world, in the physical world. It could figure out the problem for them, by running a bunch of simulations to see what went wrong with Delos, to see what went wrong with a lot of these other ones. Well, that's me assuming there are other candidates, but I think Sirach has tried his own experiments with immortality already, and that'll begin to play out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And Eden has to tie into that.
Yeah.
Virtual Eden, so to speak. Anyways, yes. Windbag, hot air, Johnny.
No, it's a good thought. Ted Murphy, who's a new person to the chat, thinks that they were installing those drug intake like the things for the tablets, into
Interesting.
William, because he
kind of
probably doesn't have one.
Yeah, or kind of like a behavior control, you know. You have unruly prisoners, you can just screw it in.
Yeah.
What if Caleb is William's illegitimate son? This just
Dun,
popped in my
dun.
head. That would be a crazy M. Night Shyamalan twist right there.
I saw one that was
Dun,
like, what if William is Caleb, and now we're seeing like another transformation
Oh,
or
no.
something.
Oh no, another.
I would say,
iteration.
kill me now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. John H.
If Caleb is Teddy, I'm going to freak the hell out, okay?
I was like, oh Jesus, Murphy. John H. Can Dolores recreate George R. Martin so she can command it to finish Winds of Winter by 2149?
I hope so, because he's not finishing it. George R. R. Martin's retired. I don't know if you've noticed. He's going to work on some TV shows, Fire and Blood 2. Oh, and Winds of Winter may come out, but we're never getting Dream of Spring. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
The legend will be better if he doesn't finish the books. He's already planned this out. The show kind of... come on, imagine if you're writing a book and then a show from your book is completely done. The story is over. For me, it'll make you lose motivation. It's like making a video about a book you're going to write, talking about the whole story, and then actually telling the whole story, but then trying to go and finish writing the book. It's tough to do. It's tough to get any motivation for that. That's just my opinion. People hate me for saying Jerem's never going to finish it. And he probably doesn't want to, if we're being honest. I wouldn't. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here.
No, it makes sense that, because there was articles that were coming up because of the reason why everybody's home, the coronavirus, is George R. R. Martin has put himself in self-isolation to, quote, finish Winds of Winter. But again, that's the thing. And he also said that fans can apparently arrest him if he doesn't finish the book by July. But again, don't know how that works. Because the continuation of the comment about the mouthpiece is that because they think that the mouth implant gives insight data the same way that the hat fed Delos data. Yeah, I mean that makes sense if it's based off of insight. That's all of that information. That makes sense. It's just why would the mouth? Like yeah. It's like you think that they do like a watch or something. I don't know, but
yeah, it seems like I don't know. I view it like that implant is just like the ultimate, control over somebody. Because it is such a final thing. Like you're drilling this metal piece into the roof of their mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if he's getting that, I wonder what advantage that would give to Dolores and them if they're putting that in him, or if it's just something he would never want, and they're just doing it because he doesn't like it. But there has to be some strategic thing here. Possibly she knows it's connected to Rehoboam, and she can get some kind of signal through there, maybe. But hell, I don't know. I'm not smart enough for that one yet. Might need some more stuff revealed.
Yeah.
One more episode, and then I feel like it's gonna solidify almost with all of these thoughts that are bumbling around.
These little fragments, yeah.
We're like, I think this may be where it goes. But yeah, I think we kind of covered the episode. I've run out of my questions, and I think we've caught all of them from the chat. So, and we're coming up on that. So, I guess if there's no more questions that come through because there's a delay, tell us, Hex, what you're doing on your channel and what you got coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can check out the channel, Hacks Dogma. I do a review of each episode for Westworld and a isolated theory video if anything really comes to mind. Right now, I'm kind of putting together this script about the motivations of Surak and possibly him not being the bad guy of the story that everything kind of points to. But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
And then Johnny, what you got? Maverick.
What do I got? I got a analysis video coming out tomorrow, so you're gonna want to stay tuned for that. Blah blah blah. Self promotion. Now I'm gonna come out. I think we're gonna do. Me and Mackenzie gonna work together and make a little who is Charlotte Hell video. We'll go over all the scenarios of who it could be, and by the end, hopefully, we'll have one person in mind. But if not, we'll at least have two people in mind. But we're gonna go through all the victims that it could be, because Dolores, she's good at creating victims to work for her. People won't like that, but she does. So if Teddy comes back, we can all go to hating Dolores again. But right now, she's doing pretty good. Okay, and just give her a chance with Caleb. But that's I'll just be on before the dust settles. We're doing that on Sundays after the show, and hell, I'll be here on Episode Club and just check out my channel. That's about it. I'm not really good at this, at self-promotion anyway. I'm good at making fun of myself, though. You like my forehead? Come check out my channel.
Yes. Yeah. The Dolores hacking into the Rico app, yeah, that's gonna happen at some point. I mean, that's how she's gonna recruit her army. That's how I think that's gonna happen. Like, she's gonna have Caleb and Caleb's crew, but she's gonna have to have more people join her army. So that's how she's gonna use the bad people in the world to be like, join my army, I'll pay you. But of course, for me, we're here every Wednesday. Next week we will be talking about episode 3, which is the absence of field. We're gonna be talking about that. I don't know who the special guest is next week, but we'll figure that out as it comes. But we'll check out Facebook is usually the place where I'll announce that, and or Twitter. Make sure to check out Before the Dust Settles, because that's always fun. It's straight after the show premieres. I also have me watching the show, so you can watch me watch the show. It can be very meta if it's like you watching me watching that. Anyway, I have that going up every week as well. So I'm trying to do 2 things a week now for a little bit. Twitter is where that, as well as the Patreon. They support the channel in many ways. They obviously always pose them the questions about whether or not they have any questions about the stream. And I know we didn't get to this, but I'll be sure to get back to it again. But it was basically that if the Man in Black is going to have a redemption arc, we all kind of think that's going to happen. But yeah, we're gonna do that, and we'll be back for those next week, because it's gonna be a crazy time, and who knows, it may be a whole Men in Black centered episode, because that's how it seems to go now. It's like Dolores and Maeve, and then it's like if it goes to Men in Black, then it's like, but yeah.
Men in Black's gonna open a froyo where hosts and humans can both get served together. It's gonna be like a civil rights movement all over again.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
no, who knows what he could do really besides try to kill Dolores, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be more complicated than that.
He's gonna, who knows at this point what he's capable of and what he's gonna do, because he's on level playing field. And yes, everybody's links are in the description. I think I got everybody's. Yeah, so thank you guys all in the chat for joining us. I hope we entertained you as much as we could for this time during this dark time. But yeah, we'll see you all next week. And again, think about which park you want to be in, because that'll be a big thing probably next week. So we'll see you all then. Bye.